My name is Corey, and today I'm going to be going over a game that I played in Boca Chess Tournament Round 3. And this was played last Friday. So I played an opponent that I played a couple of years prior in the Summer Solstice under 1400 section, and I don't remember the result of that game. I'm pretty sure I won, though. So today was a good rematch of the feud we have. So his name is Tom Barkasi, and he is a much stronger player now than he was when I played him. And so today we're going to be going over the game that I played with him. So as you can see here, I have the black pieces and my opponent has the white pieces. There we go, just remove the arrows. So the first move that my opponent played was e4, and I respond with c6, which is the Caro Kann variation, the Caro Kann defense. And so what this does, for those of you who don't know, is that once this pawn is on c6, it's there to help support d5 for when the pawn goes. And once this pawn is on d5, he has support from this pawn. I pretty much always start with c6, d5. Those are my first two moves, pretty much no matter what white does. So the game continued with d4, d5, and now he played knight c3, and this is the beginning of the classical variation of the Caro Kann. And it gets into pretty heavy theory. We got into mainline up till about move 8, and so it goes as follows. I took this pawn. The only logical move here is to recapture the pawn with the knight, which is what he did. And now I develop my bishop and attack this knight with a tempo. So that's what I do. I play bishop to f5, attacking the knight. And now my opponent plays the common sense move, which is knight to g3. And what this does is that it moves away. Yes, it costs him an extra move to move the knight away, but now he's attacking my bishop, so I have to do something with my bishop or protect it to avoid it being taken away. Another move he could have done was he could have perhaps played knight c5, trying to get at this pawn, but after I play b6, now his knight is under attack and he has to move yet again. And this is pretty much giving up the first move advantage for white. So instead he opted for knight to g3, attacking my bishop, so I move it back to g6 while still controlling this nice little diagonal right here. White's goal in this opening is to get rid of this bishop, to gain control of this diagonal. So he plays knight f3, and I follow up with knight d7. And the reason I play knight d7 now is to help guard against the square, because this knight, if given the chance, will go to the square, and then where's my bishop going to go? So that's why I play, whoops, I can just click. That's why I play knight d7 to help guard this e5 square, and stops the knight from immediately going there, because then I will take. So for example, if knight here, I'll take, pawn take, I'll take it, I'll take the queen, and then once the king recaptures, now the king can't castle. I could even queenside castle in this case with a check, and everything is looking pretty good for me. I could follow it up with like e6 and then bring my bishop out, and I'm doing just fine here. So that's not what happened. Instead he played bishop to d3. And I take it because anything else would be bad. I don't want to hurt my pawn structures just yet. So I take. And now black recaptures with the queen. And this is still opening theory after e6. But this is where he diverged. The mainline theory is bishop either to f4 or to bishop d2. Instead, he just castles, which is a perfectly reasonable move. I play knight gf6, developing the knight. And now the first thread of the game, pretty much, with queen to b3. This is attacking my pawn, and here I have two options. Two good options that I see. I could move the queen to b6, asking this queen, what are you going to do? Are you going to stay there? Are you going to attack me? Or are you going to move away? There's a limited set of options. He has to commit to something. Or I also considered queen c7. And I like the move queen c7 because it adds support to this long diagonal. In this opening, the light-squared bishop would like to get to this f4 diagonal to control this diagonal right here. So I opted for queen c7, and now rook e1, pinning the pawn to the king right here, which could potentially lead to some knight f5 ideas. However, I didn't really notice that. I thought he was just putting the rook on a semi-open file, and that was the end of my thought process. I didn't realize this pin. It wouldn't cost me the game, but had I realized what it was, I might have just queenside castled right away to avoid any pins. So I play bishop d6. The reason I did that was to add support along this file. However, white does have a little annoying move right now, which is knight to f5, which is what he played. Here, I decided to queenside castle, although after I analyzed it, it told me to kingside castle, the engine, that is, but in sharp games, if you play queenside castles, you'll get into pretty sharp position a lot of the time. So if I wanted to give him a chance to trap his own knight. For example, once I queenside castle and he chooses to take the pawn, after I play this gets tricky. Rook g8, and now the bishop has a square on h6, but now I was considering to play knight to g4, attacking this bishop. Now the only way to defend the well, there is no way to defend. I was considering like queen to e3, protecting it diagonally, but that just drops it because the knight will take. So now in this case, the bishop has to move somewhere, and for argument's sake, let's say the bishop goes here. It would still be beneficial to take this knight in this case, even if bishop takes and now queen takes, because it is two pieces for the rook. However, that didn't happen. Instead, he didn't fall for that trap. If he would have done that, this knight would drop after rook g8, bishop here, knight here. This bishop has to move, and then I grab the knight, and that is that. But it shows that my opponent really is a strong chess player because he didn't take this free pawn, because he knew it wouldn't last if he did. So instead, he opts to take my bishop with check, and so I recapture, having no other moves. Now my opponent played bishop to g5, attacking the knight and pinning it to the rook. So I decide to play the immediate h6, kicking out this bishop, or it's challenging it, rather. Bishop decided to take the knight, and now my knight takes, and it has a little bit more active position on f6 than it did on d7, so I felt that that was good for me. Knight e5 was played. It does not win a pawn right here, because if I were to take this pawn, he would play the move it's a little bit nasty. But knight f7, forking this rook and this rook. So I didn't take the pawn. Instead, I played rook h to f8, guarding this pawn and steering clear away of any forks. Now my opponent played c3, protecting the d4 pawn, and now I play knight b d7, because I really didn't like this knight on e5, so I wanted to kick it away. Either this knight has to move away, or it's going to be traded on the next move. He moved away to c4, attacking my queen, but now I decide to pin his knight to the queen. But this is not going to be so effective because he does have a way to get out. He comes up with this nice plan of a4. If he hadn't played a4, I probably would have played b5 on the next move, and this would win me a piece. But he plays a4, stopping that, because now if I play a4, he could simply take. So for example, if b5, he would take, and if I take here, and perhaps rook here, that doesn't look so great for white. Let me think about this for a second. So I play queen d5, and my opponent plays a4, stopping me from playing b5. But is he really stopping me from playing b5? Perhaps not. Perhaps maybe I should have played it. But I was a little bit nervous at this file that could open up very, very quickly. Okay, so pawn takes this here. Am I not just winning a knight here? Because after rook takes, queen takes, my king is looking... Maybe he has an attack going, such as queen a3. But then my queen could just go... Oh no, it can't because of the rook. Yeah, there's an attack here on my king. Rook a8 is bound to happen, and I might be getting mated here, and there's not a whole lot I could do about it. So perhaps that's why I didn't play b5. Maybe I saw that coming during the game. I don't really remember, it's been a couple of days, but that's the analysis. So maybe my opponent was thinking about sacrificing his knight to get a winning attack. Even if I had taken with the queen, after queen takes, pawn takes, rook takes pawn, now he's threatening of bringing both his rooks on the a file, and that does not look very good for me. Maybe there's a way to defend, but I'm not so certain. Well, first he would move his knight away, but still. Oh, wait a second. If I were to take with the queen, he would have a nasty little fork right here with knight d6 check, picking up my queen. So I would take with the pawn, and now he's going to build this attack. And okay, if I take with the queen, he'll just simply move away, and this attack is dangerous. And if I take with the pawn, he's going to make probably the same move, or he could even play queen to a4. And this attack on my king is very, very dangerous. So instead I play king b8, and just trying to get away from certain attacks. But now I realize it's putting my king in the same line as the queen. But I didn't really see a way where he could punish that so quickly. Queen a2 was played, and here I play knight to b6, offering a trade of knights. He gladly accepts, but before I take back the knight, I take on a2 for a queen trade, because I'm pretty certain about my endgame skills. In this scenario, I enjoy playing rook and pawn endgames, and his knight was pestering me, and so was his queen, so I decided to get rid of them, simplify, and keep the game going. So he played a5, and that just pretty much undoubled my pawns. So perhaps, oh, whoops. Yeah, perhaps a5 was a bit premature. There was really no rush to play a5, but he did it anyway. And now rook takes. Perhaps he did it to get a more active rook position, which is totally fine. I play b6, attacking the rook, and rook move there. And now I have pretty much no choice but to play king b7. Otherwise, it won't end very well. For example, if I decide to protect this pawn via king c7, he's going to bring this rook here, and it's not looking too good for me. So that's why I played king b7 here. And pretty much these are forced trades now. If I didn't play rook to a8, he would pretty much win. So for example, if I make any move, like here, he would give a check, I'd go down, check, here, check. It's actually not winning for white. I didn't like to look at, I don't know why that kept happening, but this isn't so good for black. I mean, it's not terrible either. The king's in the center. Maybe I should have opted for that. Anyway, I play rook a8 because for some reason, I didn't like these rooks along the a file. And now he trades, and I have to take back, take, and take. And now it's a king and pawn endgame, which can get very, very interesting. And you'll see in this game why it was so. f4 was played, trying to establish center control and provide a route for his king. He probably wants to go this way, and then go somewhere along here. And I'd march my king towards the center because in the endgame, your king is a powerful tool and you should use it. In the opening and in the middle, you want to keep it protected, but once all the pieces are basically gone, that could threaten the king, you want to activate it as best as you can. He's doing the same. We're bringing our kings closer, and now he played c4. And here I play king d6. I'm not wasting time moving pawns. I need my king in the center. I need my king active. King e3 was played, and here I played f5, locking down any possibilities of him playing king to e4. And if I hadn't played this immediately, perhaps white would have played a move like g4, stopping this so easily. So he plays king e3, and I play f5, right, stopping that king e4 idea. White plays h3, and here I play b5. And of course he takes, I take back, and now he plays king to d3. Here I get opposition by playing king d5, and here he plays g4. Now right here I had a move that if I played it, I would have won the game pretty much on the spot because it would guarantee me a passed pawn. And I didn't play that move. What I did play was I played b4. And the reason I played b4 is because it blocks the king going to c3. But in hindsight, I had a much, much better sequence of moves. And that sequence of moves was pawn takes on g4. And now the pawn pretty much has to take back. Otherwise, this pawn will be a major threat to queening. And even if this king stops it, my king will eat this pawn and this pawn during the race. So white would take back, and here I have a move which would have been g6. And here this would have guaranteed me a passed pawn, because no matter what white did, I mean, okay, unless, of course, he plays a move like f5, I am going to play h5 and try to get a passed pawn. And this will be a major threat. The king will go off course, and I will scoop the pawns. However, I did not see those sequence of moves, so instead I played b4. And now this game is pretty much a dead draw after white takes. And white does a pretty good job of completely locking up the position. And here, I offer white a draw, and he accepted. Now, the reason I offered him a draw is because I didn't know what to do next. Had I played it, I mean, it was a draw no matter what, but I didn't have any plans of advancing any further. Earlier in the game, when it first became a king and pawn endgame, my opponent offered me a draw, and I declined it. I told him that we should play on, and he understood, and he did. But it was at this moment, at b4, where instead, if I didn't play b4, had I taken on this g4 and then played g6, that would have won me the game. However, it's pretty hard to see a move like that. You have to really know your endgame technique. So after here, g6 and b3, it's pretty much a dead draw. My king can't enter anyway. It's all locked in, and there's no way for me to get a passed pawn without losing. Because if I get my king to the side, look what happens. His king is going to eat my pawn and march his 2 passed pawns all the way down before I can even think about beating. So that's why we decided to draw, and that is the video. So I hope you enjoyed it. Okay, take care.